Roman Travers, Magic Talk.
Ooh-wee. It's at times like this you need to just, take a deep breath. It's a whole new world. And Harold Hillman, an executive coach, joins me now. And Harold, you've got someone deeply affected by this, yourself and your daughter. How is Alexis doing?
Alexis is doing fine. Of course, I've been in touch with her numerous times across the last week. And when I talked with her on Wednesday, she said the symptoms had abated. She was experiencing runny nose, a constant cough, and the biggest thing that really jumped on her was exhaustion. And so she got a lot of sleep across those 2 days. And so she's on the other side of it, still required to self-isolate for another week. So she'll be in for another 7 days.
Yeah.
And she's just taking it, as she knew that I was coming on this morning, and I asked her if she wanted to share some advice, and her advice was to tell people to self-isolate sooner than later. She regrets it that she didn't do it earlier. She works for a restaurant in California, and even though the governor had shut down the restaurants for people coming in, the restaurants had the option of offering takeaway, where customers would line up outside. And that's where she reckons that she came into contact with someone, probably with the virus.
Okay. Harold Hillman, executive coach from the Sigmoid Curve Consulting Group. We do selfishly think of things like you've got your own daughter. I've got a daughter in Australia, and I hope that she's going to be okay as well. It's a whole new world. What is our new normal? We're sort of learning as we go, aren't we?
We are learning as we go. That's the thing. None of us have ever been through anything like this. And so people are using, I think, the two words when we reflect back on this a few years from now and reflect back on this, the two words that I keep hearing are unprecedented and the new normal. And the new normal implies that on the other side of this, things will have shifted. There will be some things that are different. And certainly in the context of work, how people work together and how we even do our work will have shifted a bit. One of those things is there will be greater workplace flexibility. I read an interesting study that showed that people are more likely to ask for flexible work arrangements if their manager and their manager's manager occasionally work from home or work creatively around other day-to-day demands. And this virus has forced everyone to work from home, if not deemed an essential service. And so for some CEOs and senior executives, this may be the first time they're actually trying on something a bit more flexible than going into the office in that traditional 9-to-5 sort of mentality. And, empathy is derived from walking in another person's shoes. And I think that now that there'll be more senior tier people in companies who appreciate that there are many upsides associated with working from home.
Tell me some of those. Apart from getting the washing done and a roast in the oven.
That's right, and maybe not necessarily having to put on your best suit and those types of things. There are fewer interruptions and distractions. You and I have talked on a previous Sunday about the fact that a lot of productivity has gone down a bit associated with open space environments, and that roughly 54% of your workforce will be introverts and people who actually, around things that they need to go deep around, analysis, something they need to bake in their head where distractions and interruptions just take them away. It's hard to go deep around anything when people are constantly sort of knocking on your door or walking up to you. So that's one of those, it really just helped. And it, I think also will reinforce the notion that sometimes working from home, you can actually get things done quicker. So there's expedience associated there too.
Yeah, there is a bit. I've got a friend who's got 2 little children. They're both just at school age, and she's really upset because she's trying to be that buoyant, upbeat mum, trying to keep the kids away from all the news, trying to do her job, trying to do everything. It's tough as a single parent.
It is tough as a single parent. My oldest daughter lives in L.A., and she's got 2 sons. She and her husband, her sons are 7 and 4. And she's been trying to work from home, but it's been a bit difficult. It's been really challenging, particularly with the 4-year-old. And so there is this thing around, as companies consider the option of working from home with parents with smaller kids, the critical question is, can you look after your kids effectively, and can you work effectively? And if either of those is compromised, it probably means that arrangement is not going to work. But certainly with older kids, 10, 11, into their teens, absolutely, you have the ability to work around.
Yesterday at 11 o'clock in the morning, I had to dial into a conference that was running first thing in the morning through the day, and my time to present was 11. So I dialed in, and you sit there going, can they see up my nostrils? What are they looking at? Are they looking at the screen? It's changed everything. In fact, meetings during the week, we have these get-togethers on WebEx or Zoom, and people do funny things. They grab their dog or their cat, and they hold it up to the camera. It's different. It's different at so many levels, isn't it?
It is different. It is different. I've been admiring the art on the walls.
Or the lack of it.
on the lack of it, but you get a glimpse of where this person who you normally sit next to at work, and then you get a sense of what their home is like and that type of thing. It does open up a whole new realm. But I think on the other side of all of this, there will be more virtual teaming. I've been very impressed, Roman, with the technology.
Yeah, look, you've got to be very careful, because if you're someone who walks out of the shower with everything, flapping around, and someone's on a WebEx, next thing, woo, there's your husband.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about reactive change versus planned change. What do you mean by that?
Well, change is scary for many people because oftentimes, particularly in a work context, it's been associated with negative outcomes. But change in general, as human beings, we're wired to adapt to change. And if we plan a change out where we can sequence it, we know how we're going to take people through it, map it out across the next year, we're going to go through 3 different phases, those types of things, you can mitigate the anxiety associated with it because there's a process that sits under it. This COVID-19, this pandemic, jumped on us from just out of nowhere, seemingly, particularly after it began to mount, and there was no precedent for it. And so when we forced into a scenario like this where there aren't necessarily clear answers, we just need to be more mindful of the fact that the anxiety level is going to go up, the vulnerability level goes up. Routine helps, and so it's important in the scenario, whether it be your kids home from school now, you need to get them into a routine because it tends to mitigate anxiety. And that's the same as in businesses as well, getting into a routine. And
it also, this whole process requires leaders to be authentic and transparent.
Absolutely. Unlike Trump, I agree with you. I just, in that very first week, in a snide remark he made to a reporter referring to this coronavirus as quote unquote fake news. Mm-hmm. Fake news. And I think the impact of that is playing itself out right now in the U.S. Because it is rippling. It's a tidal wave, basically from East Coast right over to West Coast. L.A. is about to get hit as hard as New York has been.
It has indeed, and it's yet to come, and we're going to see more. Harold Hillman, executive coach there from the Sigmoid Curve Consulting Group. Hey, all the best to your daughter Alexis as well. We all are in behind you. You're such a nice guy, and it's a tough time when you've got family overseas.